fish-like. Ichthyology, the branch of zoology that treats of fishes. Ichthyosaurs, a fossil reptile. Icily, frigidly. Iciness, the state of being icy. Icon, an image or likeness. Iconoclast, an image breaker. Idealize, to make to conform to some mental or imaginary standard. Idiom, a use of words peculiar to a particular language. Idiosyncrasy, a mental quality or habit peculiar to an individual. Idolize, to regard with inordinate love or admiration. Ignoble, low in character or purpose. Ignominious, shameful. Iliad, a Greek epic poem describing scenes from the siege of Troy. Illegal, not according to law. Illegible, undecipherable. Illegitimate, unlawfully begotten. Illiberal, stingy. Illicit, unlawful. Illimitable, boundless. Illiterate, having little or no book learning. Ill-natured, surly. Illogical, contrary to the rules of sound thought. Illuminant, that which may be used to produce light. Illuminate, to supply with light. Illumine, to make bright or clear. Illusion, an unreal image presented to the senses. Illusive, deceptive. Illusory, deceiving or tending to deceive, as by false appearance. Imaginable, that can be imagined or conceived in the mind. Imaginary, fancied. Imbibe, to drink or take in. Imbroglio, a misunderstanding attended by ill-feeling, perplexity, or strife. Imbrue, to wet or moisten. Imitation, that which is made as a likeness or copy. Imitator, one who makes an imitation. Immaculate, without spot or blemish. Immaterial, of no essential consequence. Immature, not full grown. Immeasurable, indefinitely extensive. Immense, very great in degree, extent, size, or quantity. Immerse, to plunge or dip entirely under water or other fluid. Immersion, the act of plunging or dipping entirely under water or another fluid. Immigrant, a foreigner who enters a country to settle there. Immigrate, to come into a country or region from a former habitat. Imminence, impending evil or danger. Imminent, dangerous and close at hand. Immiscible, separating, as oil and water. Immoral, habitually engaged in licentious or lewd practices. Immortalize, to cause to last or to be known or remembered throughout a great or indefinite length of time. Immovable, steadfast. Immune, exempt, as from disease. Immutable, unchangeable. Impair, to cause to become less or worse. Impalpable, imperceptible to the touch. Impartial, unbiased. Impassable, that cannot be passed through or over. Impassible, not moved or affected by feeling. Impassive, unmoved by or not exhibiting feeling. Impatience, unwillingness to brook delays or wait the natural course of things. Impeccable, blameless. Impecunious, having no money. Impede, to be an obstacle or to place obstacles in the way of. Impel, to drive or urge forward. Impend, to be imminent. Imperative, obligatory. Imperceptible, indiscernible. Imperfectible, that cannot be perfected. Imperil, to endanger. Imperious, insisting on obedience. Impermissible, not permissible. Impersonal, not relating to a particular person or thing. Impersonate, to appear or act in the character of. Impersuadable, unyielding. Impertinence, rudeness. Imperturbable, calm. Impervious, impenetrable. Impetuosity, rashness. Impetuous, impulsive. Impetus, any impulse or incentive. Impiety, irreverence toward God. Impious, characterized by irreverence or irreligion. Implausible, not plausible. Impliable, capable of being inferred. Implicate, to show or prove to be involved in or concerned. Implicit, implied. Imply, to signify. Impolitic, inexpedient. Importation, the act or practice of bringing from one country into another. Importunate, urgent in character, request, or demand. Importune, to harass with persistent demands or entreaties. Impotent, destitute of or lacking in power, physical, moral, or intellectual. Impoverish, to make indigent or poor. Impracticable, not feasible. Impregnable, that cannot be taken by assault. Impregnate, to make pregnant. Impromptu, anything done or said on the impulse of the moment. Improper, not appropriate, suitable, or becoming. Impropriety, the state or quality of being unfit, unseemly, or inappropriate. Improvident, lacking foresight or thrift. Improvise, to do anything extemporaneously or offhand. Imprudent, heedless. Impudence, insolent disrespect. Impugn, to assail with arguments, insinuations, or accusations. Impulsion, impetus. Impulsive, unpremeditated. Impunity, freedom from punishment. Impure, tainted. Impute, to attribute. Inaccessible, difficult of approach. Inaccurate, not exactly according to the facts. Inactive, inert. Inadequate, insufficient. Inadmissible, not to be approved, considered, or allowed as testimony. Inadvertent, accidental. Inadvisable, unadvisable. Inane, silly. Inanimate, destitute of animal life. Inapprehensible, not to be understood. Inapt, awkward or slow. Inarticulate, speechless. Inaudible, that cannot be heard. Inborn, implanted by nature. Inbred, innate. Incandescence, the state of being white or glowing with heat. Incandescent, white or glowing with heat. Incapacitate, to deprive of power, capacity, competency, or qualification. Incapacity, want of power to apprehend, understand, and manage. Incarcerate, to imprison. Incendiary, to fire, literally or figuratively. Incentive, that which moves the mind or inflames the passions. Inception, the beginning. Inceptive, beginning. Incessant, unceasing. Inchmeal, piecemeal. Inchoate, incipient. Inchoative, that which begins or expresses beginning. Incidents, casual occurrence. Incident, a happening in general, especially one of little importance. Incidentally, without intention. Incinerate, to reduce to ashes. Incipience, beginning. Incipient, initial. Incisor, a front or cutting tooth. Incite, to rouse to a particular action. Incitement, that which moves to action or serves as an incentive or stimulus. Incoercible, incapable of being forced, constrained, or compelled. Incoherence, want of connection or agreement, as of parts or ideas in thought, speech, etc. Incoherent, not logically coordinated as to parts, elements, or details. Incombustible, that cannot be burned. Incomparable, matchless. Incompatible, discordant. Incompetence, general lack of capacity or fitness. Incompetent, not having the abilities desired or necessary for any purpose. Incomplete, lacking some element, part, or adjunct necessary or required. Incomprehensible, not understandable. Incompressible, resisting all attempts to reduce volume by pressure. Inconceivable, incomprehensible. Incongruous, unsuitable for the time, place, or occasion. Inconsequential, valueless. Inconsiderable, small in quantity or importance. Inconsistent, contradictory. Inconstant, changeable. Incontrovertible, indisputable. Inconvenient, interfering with comfort or progress. Indefensible, untenable. Indefinitely, in a vague or uncertain way. Indelible, that cannot be blotted out, effaced, destroyed, or removed. Indescribable, that cannot be described. Indestructible, that cannot be destroyed. Indicant, that which points out. Indicator, one who or that which points out. Indict, to find and declare chargeable with crime. Indigence, poverty. Indigenous, native. Indigent, poor. Indigestible, not digestible or difficult to digest. Indigestion, difficulty or failure in the alimentary canal in changing food into absorptive nutriment. Indignant, having such anger and scorn as is aroused by meanness or wickedness. Indignity, unmerited contemptuous conduct or treatment. Indiscernible, not perceptible. Indiscreet, lacking wise judgment. Indiscriminate, promiscuous. Indispensable, necessary or requisite for the purpose. Indistinct, vague. Indivertible, that cannot be turned aside. Indivisible, not separable into parts. Indolence, laziness. Indolent, habitually inactive or idle. Indomitable, unconquerable. Induct, to bring in. Indulgence, the yielding to inclination, passion, desire, or propensity in oneself or another. Indulgent, yielding to the desires or humor of oneself or those under one's care. Inebriate, to intoxicate. Inedible, not good for food. Ineffable, unutterable. Inefficient, not accomplishing an intended purpose. Inefficiency, that which does not accomplish an intended purpose. Ineligible, not suitable to be selected or chosen. Inept, not fit or suitable. Inert, inanimate. Inestimable, above price. Inevitable, unavoidable. Inexcusable, not to be justified. Inexhaustible, so large or furnishing so great a supply as not to be emptied, wasted, or spent. Inexorable, unrelenting. Inexpedient, unadvisable. Inexpensive, low-priced. Inexperience, lack of or deficiency in experience. Inexplicable, such as cannot be made plain. Inexpressible, unutterable. Inextensible, of changeable length or area. Infallible, exempt from error of judgment, as in opinion or statement. Infamous, publicly branded or notorious, as for vice or crime. Infamy, total loss or destitution of honor or reputation. Inference, the derivation of a judgment from any given material of knowledge on the ground of law. Infernal, akin to or befitting hell or its occupants. Infest, to be present in such numbers as to be a source of annoyance, trouble, or danger. Infidel, one who denies the existence of God. Infidelity, disloyalty. Infinite, measureless. Infinity, boundless or immeasurable extension or duration. Infirm, lacking in bodily or mental strength. Infirmary, a place for the reception or treatment of the sick. Infirmity, a physical, mental, or moral weakness or flaw. Inflammable, easily set on fire or excited. Inflammation, a morbid process in some part of the body characterized by heat, swelling, and pain. Inflexible, that cannot be altered or varied. Influence, ability to sway the will of another. Influential, having the power to sway the will of another. Influx, infusion. Infrequence, rareness. Infrequent, uncommon. Infringe, to trespass upon. Infuse, to instill, introduce, or inculcate as principles or qualities. Infusion, the act of imbuing or pouring in. Ingenious, evincing skill, originality, or cleverness, as in contrivance or arrangement. Ingenuity, cleverness in contriving, combining, or originating. Ingenuous, candid, frank, or open in character or quality. Inglorious, shameful. Engraft, to set or implant deeply and firmly. Ingratiate, to win confidence or good graces for oneself. Ingratitude, insensibility to kindness. Ingredient, component. Inherence, the state of being permanently existing in something. Inherent, intrinsic. Inhibit, to hold back or in. Inhospitable, not disposed to entertain strangers gratuitously. Inhuman, savage. Inhume, to place in the earth as a dead body. Inimical, adverse. Iniquity, gross wrong or injustice. Initiate, to perform the first act or rite. Inject, to introduce as a fluid by injection. Injunction, mandate. Inkling, a hint. Inland, remote from the sea. Inlet, a small body of water leading into a larger. Inmost, deepest within. Innocuous, harmless. Innovate, to introduce or strive to introduce new things. Innuendo, insinuation. Innumerable, countless. Inoffensive, causing nothing displeasing or disturbing. Inopportune, unsuitable or inconvenient, especially as to time. Inquire, to ask information about. Inquisition, a court or tribunal for examination and punishment of heretics. Inquisitive, given to questioning, especially out of curiosity. Inquisitor, one who makes an investigation. Inroad, forcible encroachment or trespass. Insatiable, that desires or craves immoderately or unappeasably. Inscribe, to enter in a book or on a list, roll, or document by writing. Inscrutable, impenetrably mysterious or profound. Insecure, not assured of safety. Insensible, imperceptible. Insentient, lacking the power of feeling or perceiving. Inseparable, that cannot be separated. Insidious, working ill by slow and stealthy means. Insight, intellectual discernment. Insignificance, lack of import or of importance. Insignificant, without importance, force, or influence. Insinuate, to imply. Insipid, tasteless. Insistence, urgency. Insistent, urgent. Insolence, pride or haughtiness exhibited in contemptuous and overbearing treatment of others. Insolent, impudent. Insomnia, sleeplessness. Inspector, an official appointed to examine or oversee any matter of public interest or importance. Instance, a single occurrence or happening of a given kind. Instant, a very brief portion of time. Instantaneous, done without perceptible lapse of time. Instigate, to provoke. Instigator, one who incites to evil. Instill, to infuse. Instructive, conveying knowledge. Insufficiency, inadequacy. Insufficient, inadequate for some need, purpose, or use. Insular, pertaining to an island. Insulate, to place in a detached state or situation. Insuperable, invincible. Insuppressible, incapable of being concealed. Insurgence, uprising. Insurgent, one who takes part in forcible opposition to the constituted authorities of a place. Insurrection, the state of being in active resistance to authority. Intangible, not perceptible to the touch. Integrity, uprightness of character and soundness of moral principle. Intellect, the faculty of perception or thought. Intellectual, characterized by intelligence. Intelligence, capacity to know or understand. Intelligible, comprehensible. Intemperance, immoderate action or indulgence, as of the appetites. Intention, the act of stringing or stretching, or state of being strained. Intensive, adding emphasis or force. Intention, that upon which the mind is set. Interact, to act reciprocally. Intercede, to mediate between persons. Intercept, to interrupt the course of. Intercession, entreaty in behalf of others. Intercessor, a mediator. Interdict, authoritative act of prohibition. Interim, time between acts or periods. Interlocutor, one who takes part in a conversation or oral discussion. Interlude, an action or event considered as coming between others of greater length. Intermediate, being in a middle place or degree or between extremes. Interminable, having no limit or end. Intermission, a recess. Intermit, to cause to cease temporarily. Intermittent, a temporary discontinuance. Interpolation, verbal interference. Interpose, to come between other things or persons. Interposition, a coming between. Interpreter, A person who makes intelligible the speech of a foreigner by oral translation. Interrogate, to examine formally by questioning. Interrogative, having the nature or form of a question. Interrogatory, a question or inquiry. Interrupt, to stop while in progress. Intersect, to cut through or into so as to divide. Intervale, a low tract of land between hills, especially along a river. Intervene, to interfere for some end. Intestacy, the condition resulting from one's dying not having made a valid will. Intestate, not having made a valid will. Intestine, that part of the digestive tube below or behind the stomach, extending to the anus. Intimacy, close or confidential friendship. Intimidate, to cause to become frightened. Intolerable, insufferable. Intolerance, inability or unwillingness to bear or endure. Intolerant, bigoted. Intoxicant, anything that unduly exhilarates or excites. Intoxicate, to make drunk. Intracellular, occurring or situated within a cell. Intramural, situated within the walls of a city. Intrepid, fearless and bold. Intricacy, perplexity. Intricate, difficult to follow or understand. Intrigue, a plot or scheme, usually complicated and intended to accomplish something by secret ways. Intrinsic, inherent. Introductory, preliminary. Introgression, entrance. Intramit, to insert. Introspect, to look into. Introspection, the act of observing and analyzing one's own thoughts and feelings. Introversion, the act of turning or directing inward, physically or mentally. Introvert, to turn within. Intrude, to come in without leave or license. Intrusion, the act of entering without warrant or invitation, encroachment. Intuition, instinctive knowledge or feeling. Inundate, to fill with an overflowing abundance. Inundation, flood. Inure, to harden or toughen by use, exercise, or exposure. Invalid, having no force, weight, or cogency. Invalid, one who is disabled by illness or injury. Invalidate, to render of no force or effect. Invaluable, exceedingly precious. Invariable, unchangeable. Invasion, encroachment as by an act of intrusion or trespass. Invective, an utterance intended to cast censure or reproach. Inveigh, to utter vehement censure or invective. Inventive, quick at contrivance. Inverse, contrary in tendency or direction. Inversion, change of order so that the first shall become last and the last first. Invert, to turn inside out, upside down, or in opposite direction. Investigator, one who investigates. Investor, one who invests money. Inveterate, habitual. Invidious, showing or feeling envy. Invigorate, to animate. Invincible, not to be conquered, subdued, or overcome. Inviolable, incapable of being injured or disturbed. Invoke, to call on for assistance or protection. Involuntary, unwilling. Involution, complication. Involve, to draw into entanglement, literally or figuratively. Invulnerable, that cannot be wounded or hurt. Inwardly, with no outward manifestation. Iota, a small or insignificant mark or part. Irascible, prone to anger. Irate, moved to anger. Ire, wrath. Iridescence, a many-colored appearance. Iridescent, exhibiting changing rainbow colors due to the interference of the light. Irk, to afflict with pain, vexation, or fatigue. Irksome, wearisome. Irony, censure or ridicule under cover of praise or compliment. Irradiance, luster. Irradiate, to render clear and intelligible. Irrational, not possessed of reasoning powers or understanding. Irreducible, that cannot be lessened. Irrefragable, that cannot be refuted or disproved. Irrefrangible, that cannot be broken or violated. Irrelevant, inapplicable. Irreligious, indifferent or opposed to religion. Irreparable, that cannot be rectified or made amends for. Irrepressible, that cannot be restrained or kept down. Irresistible, that cannot be successfully withstood or opposed. Irresponsible, careless of or unable to meet responsibilities. Irreverence, the quality showing or expressing a deficiency of veneration, especially for sacred things. Irreverent, showing or expressing a deficiency of veneration, especially for sacred things. Irreverential, showing or expressing a deficiency of veneration, especially for sacred things. Irreversible, irrevocable. Irrigant, serving to water lands by artificial means. Irrigate, to water as land by ditches or other artificial means. Irritable, showing impatience or ill temper on little provocation. Irritancy, the quality of producing vexation. Irritant, a mechanical, chemical, or pathological agent of inflammation, pain, or tension. Irritate, to excite ill temper or impatience in. Eruption, sudden invasion. Isle, an island. Islet, a little island. Isobar, a line joining points at which the barometric pressure is the same at a specified moment. Isochronous, relating to or denoting equal intervals of time. Isolate, to separate from others of its kind. Isothermal, having or marking equality of temperature. Itinerant, wandering. Itinerary, a detailed account or diary of a journey. Itinerate, to wander from place to place.